Hello, good morning. I hope I am audible. Divyanshu and Aditi, I think both of you are able to hear me. Husna is joining through audio now. Yes, thank you for the confirmation there, Divyanshu. Right, Husna has joined in as well. That's nice, wonderful. So a very good morning to all of you and welcome to this demo class on TOEFL. I think some more students are about to join. Hopefully they will soon. So before we jump into the TOEFL, let me just tell you a bit about myself and then we'll start. So my name is Ashay. Please don't get it confused with Akshay. People usually do that. It's not that. It's Ashay. You can call me Ashay, sir, if you want to. I have worked in China. I've also worked in Thailand. I've taught there for almost 5 years combined, where obviously my job was to make sure that my students get their desired scores in different Cambridge and Oxford examinations. I have been teaching for almost 8 years now, and my goal here is obviously very simple. I want to ensure that all of you get to that target TOEFL score that you have in your mind. If you're able to cross that and go to a higher score, I'll be really very happy. Yeah, so I'm going to keep it really short because then we can focus on the TOEFL today. So we're going to use the Zoom interface throughout these classes. Only for today's class, due to security reasons, we have to enable that feature where you will not be able to unmute yourselves. So just for today, I would like all of you to use the chat feature as much as you want to. Whenever you have a question, query, or a doubt related to whatever we're discussing, feel free to use the chat so that I can respond to your questions there. So I'm just sending a hello in the chat. Can you please respond to that, everyone, so that I can see you're able to use it properly? Let's see, waiting for your responses. Hello, Divyanshu. I am still waiting. Good morning, Aditi. Great. Waiting for Nikhil and Husna. I just want to be, yes, great. Certain that all of you are able to use that. That's wonderful. Husna, hello. And Nikhil, can you also just send me that message in the chat? Just so I know that you're using it properly, you can then interact with me throughout. Hopefully, yes, Nikhil will be able to, I think, send me that message as well. But that's good. 3 of you have got it. The other thing that I would like all of you to ensure is that keep your videos switched off, right? And not just for today, but for the entire session, because this ensures that all of us have a stable bandwidth. I will definitely keep my video switched on throughout, so don't worry about it. Just your videos need to be switched off. You can definitely unmute during our regular classes. Like I said, it's only for today that I would like you to use the chat as much as you want to. And the other thing is, obviously, usually I ask all my students to rename themselves, but here I don't see any iPhones or Redmis or Oppos or Vivos, so that's good. I can see all of you have already used the correct username for your Zoom account, so that's fine. Right, so let's get into the TOEFL quickly, directly, and we can continue from there. So before we proceed, I just need a confirmation in the chat. Is this visible to everyone? ETS TOEFL IBT demo class. Can you all see that slide? Yes, great, wonderful. Okay, hopefully it is. Nikhil, I am still waiting for your response there. Okay, it's visible to the 3 others, so I hope Nikhil's also able to see it. Fine, I'm just hoping a lot of things for him. Fine, right. So let me just tell you in brief what we are going to cover today. Yes, there we go, Nikhil, thank you. Right, so we'll start this class by taking a look at this concept called English proficiency tests. Have you heard of this term before? Anyone? Do you know what is an English proficiency test? Any idea? Because some of you may have heard it before. Some of you may not have heard it before. And it's okay to say no. It's not a problem. Have you heard about English proficiency tests before? Okay, fine. That's good. Yeah, heard about it, right? So it's very important for all of you to understand what an English proficiency test is in order to understand what the TOEFL is. Yeah, so this is like the mother body, right? And then TOEFL is like the baby that falls in this group. So we'll start with this a little bit. Then we'll move on to the TOEFL, and I'll cover all the important aspects of the TOEFL there. We obviously will talk about the 4 modules of the TOEFL IBT test as well, and how you're tested in those 4 modules. We will also talk about the special home edition of the TOEFL test. I'm hoping that most of you are aware that you can take the TOEFL test from your home as well. So you don't have to go to the center. But then again, there are a few things that you must bear in mind. So we'll talk about those things too when we get to the special home edition discussion. I would also then talk about how the class is going to be executed, how this batch will be panned out, and how we're going to structure everything here. And at the end, obviously, I'll give you enough time to ask me all the other questions that you may have related to the test, which if I missed something from my presentation and you still have something in your minds, that last Q&A session is for you, right? So let's start with the English proficiency tests then. Yeah. So a couple of you said that you already know a little bit, or you've heard about these, right? So English proficiency test is a very important concept, right? This is a test which determines your ability to access English in different situations, in a wide range of scenarios. So are you able to really access English when you're talking to native English speakers, let's say in a supermarket? Can you deal with a landlord who actually is a native English speaker, and do you know what kind of language to use when you're interacting with him or her? When you go to the university campus, do you know how to speak to a librarian, right? Or when you're sitting in a lecture in your university abroad, do you know how to take notes from that lecture and how to process all that information? Usually these are what the English proficiency tests check, right? Your ability to understand and use a number of different ways of accessing English language. And that is what the focus here is. Now, why did they design these tests? That is also very important. So there are a lot of students who live in non-native English speaking countries, right? So non-native English speaking countries are countries where English is not spoken by birth, like in India, right? We have our own languages. We speak Punjabi, Marathi, Hindi, Bengali, Gujarati, and so many other languages here by birth, but we learn English only later. So any student who comes from such a background, such a non-native English background, if he or she wants to study abroad, then they have to appear for this test. Yeah. So the basic reason of designing an English proficiency test is to give the university and the visa authority the confidence that yes, this person can handle the requirements in terms of English in a setting that is foreign to this person, and in a setting where a lot of people are going to interact with this person using their own native dialects, but this person will be able to then process all of that and respond accordingly, right? So that is where English proficiency tests come in. Yeah. Currently, there are 4 options that all the students have in terms of English proficiency tests. Well, there are a lot of other options, but there are 4 major options. Right. So the first one here is IELTS. So have you heard about IELTS? Anyone? Husna, Aditi, Divyanshu, Nikhil. Okay, that's great. Wonderful. It's a very popular test, right? So this is a test which is designed by Cambridge, and it is mostly conducted in India. At least it is conducted by an institution called IDP, right? IDP Australia. And this is also a test which is an English proficiency test, and it has a wide focus. So students who are looking for a number of different countries, usually go for the IELTS test. And there are 2 versions of this. You can take it on a pen and paper. You can also take it on a computer. Usually, again, there are a number of different aspects involved here, but the core of the IELTS would remain the same as all the other tests which are listed then. So TOEFL IBT obviously is something we're going to cover in detail today. Do you know what is PTE? Have you heard of this test? Anyone? Anybody? This stands for Pearson Test of English, and it is conducted by this body called Pearson. Who makes it? No? Okay, so mostly students who are going to apply to Australia, Divyanshu has fine. So mostly students who are going to apply to Australia, universities in Australia or maybe New Zealand, they consider PTE. Some of them now, obviously, students are looking for UK or Canada as well in limited capacity. Some universities do accept the PTE scores there. And this last test, well, that got very, very popular during the first pandemic, in the first wave of the pandemic, the Duolingo English test, where everything was shut down. This was the only test which was available to test takers, and they could take it from home. It was proctored, and somebody would watch you throughout your testing process, and you could just get through this test in 1 hour, and your English proficiency levels could be shown to the universities and visa accepting authorities. But then there were issues with the acceptance rates here. A lot of universities accepted it, but the visa authorities were a little reluctant to accept the scores, and therefore the situation obviously has changed a lot now. The top 2 English proficiency tests right now are TOEFL and IELTS, right? So we'll talk a little more about these tests, and then we'll move on to TOEFL. There are a few features, and these features are common for all the English language proficiency tests. So all of them will test you on 4 different language skills. These are also called as the core language skills, right? They're reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So all the tests, right? Be it IELTS, be it TOEFL, be it PT, be it Duolingo, or any other tests that fall in the category, will test you on all the 4 skills, right? They are a requirement. They are required. They're a must. If you want to pursue admissions in an international university abroad, this score is going to be mandatory, right? Some of them also cater for people who want to emigrate abroad. So there are a lot of people who've done their studies. They've got enough experience, work experience in their respective fields. And now their aim is to directly go abroad and start a job and settle down. They don't want to study further. Just want to change the job and just settle down. So the IELTS and the PTE, these 2 tests, they have their own different versions, which a professional can also take up and just directly settle down in a foreign land. And obviously, all of their scores are valid for 2 years, 2 years from the date of testing. So these are the common features for all English language proficiency tests, right? So this applies to every language proficiency test. So this brings us obviously to TOEFL, and we'll look at it. We'll first see what TOEFL is all about, how it is designed, what is a little bit of a background about the TOEFL, and then we'll see the format and the structure of the test, right? So what is TOEFL IBT? To start with, this is test of English as a foreign language, right? Now, all of you would be wondering, but it's not a foreign language for me, right? It is more or less our second language, maybe third language, but definitely not a foreign language. We get to experience so many different levels of English in our social walks, right? Daily life. But well, that's how the test was actually named when it was created, and they have not changed it. Even when they administer this test in countries where English is actually the official language or the second language, it's still called TOEFL, test of English as a foreign language, right? And again, you can see it measures the English language proficiency of non-native speakers using an academic context. So this word academic is going to be a very, very important word throughout this presentation now. And I'll tell you what the academic context is all about as well. Don't worry. So the suffix IBT stands for internet-based test, right? Which means this is a test that has to be taken on a computer. You either go to a test center or you sit at your home and you solve your paper from there. That's fine, but it has to be taken on a computer. This is a test which is downloaded real time and uploaded real time as well, leaving no trace on the computer on which it was delivered, right? So it's an internet-based test, right? Let's look at the overview of the TOEFL then, right? So there are more than 35 million people who have taken this test since 1964. That is a huge number. They started counting test takers in 1964. So since then, 35 million plus, right? But what is more significant is this, right? So when you go or when you make plans to study abroad, you always have this list of preference. You're like, okay, I think my number one university is going to be this. I'll target this first. Number two is going to be this, number three, number four. You have your top three, top five. Some people also have top seven, top 10 as well. So roughly 90% of these 35 million people were able to get in their number one or number two ranked institutions, which is huge. I mean, no other test has these kind of numbers to show. And this is something, you'll find only in the TOEFL test, right? This is the most widely accepted academic English language test in the world. So again, that word academic has come up. Academic means the focus of the TOEFL is purely on university campus situations. It does not test English outside of the university campus. It tests English only inside the university campus. Whatever happens inside the campus is tested on the TOEFL test. Right? So this is administered in more than 4,500 certified test centers in more than 165 countries. And now that you can take the test from home, well, the test centers have actually multiplied in millions, because, well, every home basically could become a test center as long as you follow the procedures, right? But if you want to find a test center, there are plenty of them available. And this is also the most widely recognized academic English test. So more than 11,000 institutions, professional bodies, immigration authorities, and scholarship agencies worldwide, they recognize and accept the TOEFL scores, right? Scholarship as well. I have seen students get good scholarships based on their TOEFL score. Obviously, it depends on which course you're going for, which university you're targeting, which country you're looking for primarily. But then there are scholarship programs where you need ideally 105 plus to target some good scholarships. 105 out of 120 is the minimum requirement for a lot of scholarships for TOEFL. And yes, so these agencies, they also do accept TOEFL scores, right? So that's a bit about the TOEFL. Now, obviously, I told you that a lot of people who are thinking of a backup option, they take IELTS test, right? So they're like, okay, I might want to go to US, but if that doesn't work out, I think maybe I'll have Canada as a backup. If that doesn't work out, maybe I'll look for Germany or maybe UK or maybe this or that. Usually those people go for the IELTS test, but now the TOEFL also is accepted, 100% score acceptance in universities across 5 major study abroad destinations now. So that is the UK, US, obviously, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. All universities in these 5 countries, they accept the TOEFL scores. Everywhere, 100% in UK, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So now TOEFL has also become a test where if you have a backup in your mind, that for some reason, if US doesn't work out, I might look for Canada or UK, TOEFL is still going to be relevant for that application process of yours, right? So that's a good news that we've just received. I think this happened a couple of months ago, maybe three months back, but it's great that you have this kind of an acceptance now for TOEFL. Yeah. So let's talk about the details of this test and what are the most important aspects. So we've just discussed this, the full name of the test of English as a foreign language, internet-based test. So this is conducted by ETS, which stands for Education Testing Services. How many of you are preparing for GRE, or you have already prepared and appeared for GRE? There are some of you. Okay. Yes, right. So Divyanshu, Aditi. So I'm sure both of you would know what ETS is. Yes. Yeah, you might already have your accounts on the ETS website. Great, right? So for the others who don't know about ETS, this is just an organization. It's a non-profit organization, and it conducts and designs a number of tests, right? So GRE is also a high stakes examination, which is designed and conducted by the ETS. It is based in New Jersey in the US. If you want to find out more about this organization, you can go to their website. That's www.ets.org. And the score validity of the TOEFL is 2 years, obviously, because it's a language proficiency test, the 2 years remains the same. You get a total of 120 marks in the TOEFL, out of which, like I said, for a good scholarship scheme, you need a minimum of 105 plus, right? The current exam fee is $190. But then if you register with us, you get a flat $10 discount on that, right? So this exam fee has to be paid through the ets.org. We have a voucher for all of our students. So when you book the TOEFL test through us, we share that voucher, the code with you. If you apply the code, you'll get a flat $10 discount. So that will be $180 then and not $190, right? So the exam duration is 3 hours. And usually then again, there is a star mark here, right? TOEFL is offered every weekend throughout the year. This will mostly depend on the location that you're in. Yeah, in some cities, you might find only one date in an entire month. In some other cities, you might find only one date for 2 months combined. In some cities, you might actually find 4 dates in just 1 month. It depends, right? Depends on where your city is and how frequently test takers register for the TOEFL from your city. It varies on that as well. But again, if you want to check more details about the test availability and centers in your city, you can visit the ETS website, TOEFL website, and you can easily find out dates and centers in or around your city. Yeah. So let's move on then and talk about the test sections. This is the most important part of the class today, right? So this is how the TOEFL test looks like, right? So no matter if you take the test on, at the test center or at your home, you're always going to start with the reading section, right? So the reading section can be 54 or 72 minutes long, right? It could be this or that. It's not 54 to 72, it's 54 or 72. If it is a 54 minutes test, you will have 30 questions here, right? If it is a 72 minutes test, you'll have 40 questions here and you get a total of 30 score. I mean, the marking is out of 30, right? The total score is 120. It is divided in 4 equal sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing, 13 each, right? Immediately after your reading is done, your screen will change and you'll get to the listening test, right? So the listening test can be 41 or 57 minutes again. And this timing of the listening test depends on the timing of your reading test. So if your reading test was 54 minutes, your listening test is going to be 57 minutes, right? So if you get a shorter reading test, you get a longer listening test. But if you had a longer reading test, 72 minutes, then your listening would be 41. Yeah, it's X plus Y or X and Y. It's not double X or double Y. That wouldn't happen. 54 and 57, 72 and 41. Those could be the timings. If it is a 41-minute listening test, you'll have 28 questions. If it's 57 minutes, you'll have 39 questions there, right? After this, there is an optional break that you get. A 10 minutes optional break. It is optional. You can skip the break and you can continue with your test, but it is recommended that you take this break. Yeah, it's really good because what follows is actually the speaking test. And yes, it is the shortest of all. You can see it's just 17 minutes, but it is also the most intense. And you're all going to find out about this when we start the classes, that how intense this is. So you just need to relax a little bit before your speaking starts. You just need that break. Maybe just flex your muscles a little bit, stretch your body a bit, just take a few deep breaths and come back. It's always better to relax before the speaking. So in these 17 minutes, you get 4 different questions here. And again, your score comes out of 30. And immediately after your speaking is done, you get to the writing test, which lasts for 50 minutes. And there are 2 questions here. And again, the score comes out of 30, right? So I hope the structure is clear, especially the reading and listening. We'll go into details, don't worry, but I hope the overall structure is clear. Yes, great. Yes, from Aditi, I hope it's clear for the others as well, Husna as well. Good, great, wonderful. All right, fine. So let's go into the reading test first and look at it from a detailed perspective, right? So this is the reading section. So now, why is it 54 or 72? Because there could be 3 or 4 reading passages here. If it is 54 minutes, you'll have 3 passages. If it is 72 minutes, you will have 4 passages, right? And these passages are approximately 700 words in length, right? So 700 is good enough. It's not very long, it's not very short. But then for a 3 passage test in 54 minutes, you are expected to read around 2100 words on an average. And for 4 passages in 72 minutes, you're expected to read around 2800 words on an average. And those are just words in the passage. You have to still read words in the questions and the options and the instructions. So all of that is different. Just words in the passage, that comes to roughly 700 per passage, right? Now they're followed by 10 questions. So every passage has 10 multiple choice questions mostly associated with it. There are 2 other question types as well, which we'll find out later. But that is it. And therefore, if you have 3 passages, you get 30 questions. If 4 passages, you get 40 questions. Yeah. So these passages could be of different sorts as well, right? Multiple focus passages like cause and effect, compare, contrast, advantages, disadvantages, things like that, right? And the views of the authors, if they are presented, they're going to be presented in a very subtle manner. So you wouldn't really come across a sentence that says, I completely agree, or I believe this, or, from my perspective. These kind of sentences are very rare. And well, there could be questions that ask you about the opinion of the author. So you might have to dig deeper into a passage and extract your answers that way, right? This feature is something that all students really appreciate in the TOEFL test. Do you know what is a jargon? I'll just type it in the chat box. Do you know what this is? Do you know what is a jargon? Yes, Divyanshu says yes. What about the others? Do you know what is a jargon? Any idea? So what is a jargon, Divyanshu? Slang language. Okay, coming close to the actual meaning, Aditi. It's not slang always. It could be slang sometimes, yes, but not always. Yes, special words, yes. And how are they special in what context, Divyanshu? Why do we consider them special? Both of you are actually very close to the not understood by commoners. There we go. Very nice. Yes, that's it. Right. So these words, they are actually technical words, right? They're words related to a specific field. Now, if 2 cosmonauts are talking to each other in a technical language, if they're talking about the working of, let's say, the International Space Station, and if you hear them talking about it, you may not understand about 20% of what they said, because they use some technical words which you may have not heard in your entire life, right? Those words are called jargons. They're very technical words belonging to certain fields. So if there are jargons used in the TOEFL reading test, they will always give you a glossary feature. So what they'll do is they'll underline that word. Usually the word is also changed in color from black to blue. Rest of the passage is in black color and this word is in blue font, and it is also underlined. So you click on this word and the glossary pops up, which defines the words which is not commonly used. Yeah, so this is a great feature, but then don't expect them to give you a glossary feature for every difficult word. There are obviously going to be a few difficult words without any definition. It's only for jargons that they are always going to give you the glossary, right? And another student-friendly feature that the reading test has is the review feature, right? The review feature, it's basically just a button in the TOEFL toolbar. You have to click on this button. And once you click on this button, you see a list of questions that you've answered and the list of questions that you're yet to answer, right? So attempted and non-attempted questions, you can directly see from this list. You can click on the specific question number and you're taken back to that question automatically. So in the reading test, you can go back to previous passages. You can go back to previous sections, which is good, but you still have to time yourselves properly, right? Just because you have the freedom to go back, don't just keep on going back all the time. You should go ahead, go forward, because you must finish this in the specified time. And the timer is always visible to you as well in the reading test, right? So the reading tests are usually designed based on the first year, graduation first year, textbook passages from a wide variety of academic subjects, right? So it could be from farming, it could be from space studies, it could be from deep oceanography, it could be from renewable energy sources, it could be from any other academic field, it could be from finances, in economics, business operations, whatever, right? Usually first year of the graduation course or the first semester of a graduation degree is the focus point, right? So do you know any good newspapers that you might refer to in order to, not get stuck in the TOEFL? Any good newspapers that you can read? Just to get used to the Times of India. Definitely, Times of India is a good one. Any other newspapers that maybe you can read on a regular basis? Any other suggestions, Husna, Simran? Is this DH, Husna? Is Economic Times is also a good one. Yeah, agree. DH is what? I thought it was DC. Was it Deccan Chronicles? DH is the Hindu. Are you talking about that? Is it? What is DH? I'm sorry. All right. So I'm sure all of you have heard of this one. Have you? Indian Express, heard of that? Yes. Obviously, if you want to go for very good vocabulary, you can go for the Hindu as well. But don't start with the Hindu directly. Otherwise, it'll just be like rocket science. It's not even going to go parallelly. It's just going to go over. Right. So maybe Deccan Herald. Oh, okay, yes. Good. That one would do. Deccan Herald would be correct as well. It's fine. See, so all these newspapers are good. Deccan Herald is fine. Times of India is good. Economic Express, Indian Express, Hindu, and all of those are good. But then again, like I said, that these are usually taken from the first year of the university degree courses. Most importantly, these courses are offered in the US. So they're taken from the US syllabus for all these different fields. And sadly, we may not be able to find that kind of a language in any of these newspapers. Although they're so good, they might not help us very much with the TOEFL. So a few newspapers that I would recommend for all of you in order to, just deal with your reading issues, if there are any, if you want to increase a little bit of a speed, if you want to get used to that US style of reading, then obviously this is something I would definitely recommend, right? The New York Times, I'm sure all of you have heard about this. Yeah. Have you heard of both of them? New York Times and Washington Post? I'm sure everyone plays Wordle. So you would have heard of the New York Times. Yeah. Washington Post is there as well. Another very good newspaper that you can refer to would be The Guardian from the US, right? These three. So I don't want you to purchase a subscription or something like that. Don't worry. All of your smart people, see all these three newspapers, they have their own websites. And yes, some articles, you click on those articles and they'll say, oh, subscribe to read further. Don't worry. We're not going to go to these newspapers to find out what Mr. Biden is doing right now. Doesn't matter. Right? We're going to these newspapers for vocab, for reading practice. So you can go back to any of the older articles, something from Trump's tenure or Obama's tenure, and you can read about that as well. You just need to read in general and as academic as possible. So think of university courses and see, oh, maybe this kind of a passage, it could be taught in a university, and read from those sources, right? If you want to go for some websites, online news, that is, you can definitely go to CNN, right? CNN has the US website, which is quite good. Go to BBC World and not BBC English. If you go to BBC English, it'll take you to the UK page. But you go to BBC World and you'll obviously go to a few more of a mixture of US, UK, Australia, and a bit of a New Zealand style of writing. So that would be good as well, right? And then there are some very good magazines that you can read as well, right? Let me just, yeah. So there are some good magazines that you can go for. This one is obviously a very good recommendation for the TOEFL, the New Yorker. I don't know how many of you have heard about it. One of the best magazines to read for the TOEFL preparation would be this one. I'm sure all of you know about the channel, National Geographic channel. I'm sure everyone knows about it. They also have their own magazine, right? And if you read from the National Geographic magazine, you're going to find so many academic articles and posts there. It's just going to be great. Another one that you might want to refer to sometimes would be the Time magazine. Again, I am talking about the US edition here. Time magazine has a number of different editions according to countries. So Time, if you could go to the US edition, that would definitely be. So this is something I would recommend from my end. These are a few newspapers, websites, and magazines that you can start reading from, because it is the reading test where sometimes students struggle because of maybe lack of vocab, sometimes lack of reading speed, sometimes they tend to overthink about what they're reading, right? So if you at least read one article a day from any of these sources, a lot of your issues you'll see would be resolved. Yeah, so I hope all of you've got a screenshot of this. Hopefully. Great. Okay, wonderful. Right, so let's then move on to the next section, which is the listening section. And in the listening section, again, there are a number of different challenges involved, right? So here you get to see 3 or 4 lectures. Just a minute. One more thing. Before we go to the listening, there's just one more thing. Now, again, Divyanshu and Aditi, you would know that there is an experimental section in the GRE test, right? I hope you know about it. Yeah, Aditi? I hope you're familiar with it as well, the experimental section, right? So for those of you who don't know what it is, there is a passage. See, if you get 4 reading passages in the TOEFL test, only 3 reading passages are going to be evaluated. 1 passage is not going to be evaluated. It is just for experimental / research purposes. The ETS just wants to know what kind of responses candidates give to such kind of a passage, right? The sad part is they don't tell you which one is the experimental passage, right? And therefore, as a student, you must do your best in all the passages that you get in TOEFL. If there are 3 passages, then all 3 are going to be marked. If there are 4 passages, only 3 are going to be marked. 1 would just be an experimental passage, right? And the same thing applies to the listening test as well. There is an experimental section there too, right? So like I said, there are 3 or 4 lectures. But again, if there are 4 lectures, only 3 lectures will be graded. 1 lecture is going to be an experimental session. And again, they'll not tell you which one is the experimental lecture. So you have to do really well. Right. So these lectures, well, if there are 3 lectures, there would be 2 lectures with a classroom dialogue. So usually what happens in a lecture is the professor just describes a specific concept, right? Talks about a number of aspects of that concept and makes sure that the students have understood. In a classroom dialogue, the discussion opens up to students as well, where students also pitch in. Maybe they have some questions, maybe they have some more things to add to the lecture, things like that. It's more interactive. So if there are 3 lectures, 2 of them are going to be classroom dialogues where students would also pitch in. If there are 4 lectures, there could be 3 with classroom dialogues. These audios are generally 3 to 5 minutes long, but I have also heard lectures where the audio length was around 7.5, 8 minutes as well. I have never heard a lecture audio which was just 3 minutes actually, but this is what ETS tells you, right? ETS tells you that there are only 3 to 5 minutes long, but there's no audio of a lecture which was this short. And once the audio ends, you get to see 6 multiple choice questions mostly about that particular lecture, right? At the end of it. No, Divyanshu, you cannot replay this. And that is where the challenge comes in, right? So while the lecture is being played, your job as a test taker is to take very good, detailed, organized notes. You are provided with a note-taking material on the test center. You should take notes, and those notes must be detailed and well organized so that after the end of the lecture, when you see the questions, you should be able to refer back to which part of the lecture this is all about and where my answers are. Because you have no idea or no clue of what the questions are going to be, it's very important that you record all this information properly. Yeah, the questions usually follow the sequence of the events explained in the lecture. So usually the first question would talk about something in the introductory part, the next question in the first half of the lecture and things like that. But then there are some questions which may not follow that particular sequence as well. And therefore, again, note taking is a skill that all of you will have to master for this, right? So there are 3 or 4 lectures and there are 2 or 3 conversations with 2 speakers involved, right? So if you get the shorter listening test, you'll have 3 lectures and 2 conversations. So there would be 5 audios in total, right? If you get the longer listening test, you'll get 4 lectures and 3 conversations. So 7 audios in total. Obviously, if you get the 7 audios, 2 of them are going to be experimental. 1 lecture and 1 conversation are experimental. So you take them out, you have only 5 audios that you're graded on. They don't tell you which ones are experimental. So you must do your best, right, in everything. So these are shorter audios. They're 2 or 3 minutes long as well. And there are only 5 questions based on every conversation in the TOEFL, right? So again, you cannot pause this audio. You cannot rewind the audio. You cannot replay the audio. There's no control that you have in your hands. So again, your note-taking skills have to be quite good, right? So the total duration, depending on whether it's a long or a short test, could be 41 or 57 minutes, right? 5 or 7 audios in all. Right. And like we discussed for the reading section, that you could read a few magazines and newspapers and, go to online websites. For the listening section, I would definitely recommend TED Talks. I hope all of you are familiar with TED Talks. Yes, right? Because you don't need a lot of practice for conversations. Conversations are usually easy. It is the lectures and classroom discussions that can actually challenge you sometimes. So TED Talks are great practice resources. They also have their own channel, the TED Talks. They have a sub channel called TED Ed. Have you seen that? TED Education. This one. Have you seen it? TED Ed. That is even better, right? If you can just go through their YouTube channel and you'll find a link for TED Ed. You can search for TED Ed separately as well, right? This is wonderful. It's a great practice resource for your listening section in the TOEFL, especially for the lectures, because those talks, those TED Talks are based on academic concepts, specific academic concepts. So they definitely are going to be great practice resources for you, right? So 3 to 4 lectures there, right? Then after this, as you know, you get to a break. Basically, it's an optional break of 10 minutes, but like I've mentioned previously, you should definitely take it, right? It's going to help you a lot in just getting all that strain out and refocus on the test. Yeah. So after the listening, you get to the speaking section of the TOEFL. So this is the shortest section, but it is also a very, very intense testing section. So there are 4 different questions here with 17 minutes. Let me tell you what kind of questions you get here. So there are 2 different types here. There is an independent speaking question and an integrated speaking question, right? So you get only 1 independent speaking question and you get 3 integrated speaking questions. So the word independent means there's only 1, right? So in that first question of the speaking test, they only check your speaking skills. That's it. That is why it is independent. Basically, you get a familiar topic, just one, and you have to speak about that topic from your knowledge and from your experience. Usually this topic is also related to mostly your experience of the schools and universities and academic world. Rarely it could be something which is related to your day-to-day life, but mostly it's just the academic context, right? So just your speaking skills are evaluated here. But in the integrated speaking questions, you're listening, reading, and speaking. All these three skills are evaluated in a combined fashion, right? So there are different questions here. There's one question that is question number 2, where you speak about campus situations where maybe a professor has announced a new policy of marking in her classes. Maybe the university has launched a complimentary shuttle service for students. So you read those notices or emails first. It's a very short text. Then you listen to people talking about that. You listen to a conversation, and then you have to respond in speaking, covering the most important aspects of the reading and the listening. You need to synchronize both of them and then convey your answer, right? That is what usually that campus situation question is. And then there are 2 questions, question number 3 and 4. They're based on academic course content, right? So in question 3, you start by reading a very short text about a very academic concept, right? Introduction of a concept mostly. And then you hear a very short lecture about the same concept, and the professor might be disagreeing with what the text was, or might be adding a few points to that text, or agreeing with it with some different reasons, right? So again, your job when you're speaking is to synchronize the text and the audio and produce a response which is original. That is the most important thing there, that you must use original language. You can't use copied language. You can't use the language that you've heard in the talk. You can't use the language that you've read in the passage. You must be able to paraphrase as much as possible, right? And then in the last question, number 4, you hear a short lecture about, again, something very specific academic topic. There are 2 main points in that lecture. Your job is to come up with a summary of those 2 points, and you get, for question number 3 and for question numbers 2, 3, and 4, you get 1 minute of speaking time. For the first question, you get only 45 seconds to speak. So basically, you're going to speak for only 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And based on those 3 minutes and 45 seconds, you're going to get your score out of 30. Right? And that's why it's a very intense test, like I said. Right? So these responses then are scored by 3 to 6 different people from all across the world. Your responses are basically captured in the central database of the ETS. And from that central database, they're sent to different evaluators around the world. And then they try and corroborate these scores, and then your final score is calculated. In all of this, there is also a computer intervention that happens. They have got a software going for them. This is backed by artificial intelligence. It is called Speech Rater. So they use the Speech Rater software as well. So your response runs through that software too. So Speech Rater first evaluates your responses for pauses, repetition, lack in clarity, or if there are, a lot of, say, utterances of the same word, one word that you've repeated a lot, things like that. So lack in fluency, all of those features are marked by the Speech Rater, and then the humans evaluate your response. So it has been made a little more challenging with the introduction of the Speech Rater in TOEFL, right? So that is the speaking test for you. Any questions here? Anyone? Just give me a moment. I think there is a bit of a lag in the video. Okay, seems fine. Yes, Divyanshu, sure. So in the 4th task, you listen to a lecture, right? A short lecture. And usually that short lecture has 2 main points in it. Your job is to summarize those 2 points in your own language, and you get 1 minute to give that answer. Yeah. So there's no reading involved here, just listening and then summarizing that while you speak. Yeah. Great. Any other doubts? Anyone? All clear? Okay, fine. So let's get to the writing section then. In the writing section, as you know, there are 2 questions here, right? So this is also a test of your integrated skills. Number of different skills are going to be checked. So here you start with a reading test, a text, not test, text, T-E-X-T. Then you get to a listening audio, and finally you write your response. Yeah, so these are short academic listening and reading material that you get, and then there is a 20-minute response time. So what happens here is you start with a reading passage, you get 3 minutes for it. In 3 minutes, you have to read a short passage, and in that passage, there are 3 main points. So your job is to capture those 3 main points in your notes. Once the 3 minutes are over, your screen goes blank and you're taken to the listening part. In the lecture, those 3 main points of the reading are mostly contrasted or contradicted, right? The lecturer would mostly oppose those 3 points in his own way or her own way. So then your job is to take up those 3 points in your notes again. And finally, you have to write how those 3 points from the reading were opposed by the lecturer. Usually that is the task. In about 15% of the cases, you would see that the lecturer supports the 3 points in reading. So in that case, then you'll just need to write how the lecturer supported those 3 points from the reading. Yeah. So you get 20 minutes for responding to this question. Sorry. All the time that you take for reading and for listening is separate. 20 minutes only to respond to that question. Right? So this is going to be quite important as well, because if you're not able to capture all the 3 points from the reading or the listening, you're always at a risk of missing out on points. But the one thing which is very good about this is that first you get to the reading passage, 3 minutes, you note down everything. Then you go to the listening audio, right? And after the listening audio ends, you get to see the reading passage again. For all these 20 minutes of your response time, the reading passage is available to you. You can read from the passage still. So at least you'll be able to recall what you've heard in the listening, even if you were not able to mention it properly in your notes, you might just recollect a few things about it. Right? So that is one thing that helps. Yeah. Now, we've seen in the speaking and in the listening that they're integrating skills here. They're testing a number of skills together. Why do they do that? There is a very good reason for that. So when you go to a university abroad and you're sitting in a classroom, obviously you're listening to the lecture that the professor is giving. Maybe there's some resource material that he's given you. So you're reading from that material while you're listening to the professor, and then you're taking notes, right? You're taking notes from what the lecturer is talking and from what the material talks about as well. So you combine all of these skills in a real life situation, and that is what TOEFL tests, right? TOEFL actually tests whether you'll be able to survive in that situation where these skills are going to be needed in a realistic manner. Yeah, so that's why this integrated testing is happening both in the speaking and the writing test, right? And then obviously there is the independent writing task where only your writing skills are evaluated. Here you get 30 minutes to write an essay. This response is based on your personal experience, or it's an opinion that you're providing on a particular view or a topic. And it was like it was in the speaking test. In the writing as well, there are two different raters, one human rater, one AI, artificial intelligence rater, where you're going to be your essay first goes through the software. This time it's called E-rater. The E-rater first catches your spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, punctuation errors. It's a very advanced version of Grammarly. I don't know how many of you have seen Grammarly. Have you seen Grammarly? Do you know what it is and what it does? Yeah, right. It's a very advanced version of that. So it is able to catch all the issues or mistakes in your writing. Yeah, spelling, grammar, punctuation, collocations, writing style, all of those things. So the E-rater highlights exactly. Yes, right. So it highlights all these issues there in your response, and then that highlighted text is read by the human examiner or the human evaluator, and then your scores are calculated. So the speaking and writing sections seem a little more difficult to score, but again, there are discounts that you get. So don't worry, it's not going to be like a very strict grading here. It's going to be good enough. It's just that you should be able to target and address those tasks in a specific manner. If you do that, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. So any doubts then with the sections here? The reading, listening, writing or speaking, any doubts anywhere so far? All clear? All right. Wonderful. Right. So let me then talk a little bit about the special home edition, because I've seen a lot of students these days where they're not really able to get the test center where they want or when they want. Right? Maybe you are somebody who wants to take the test in September, but then you check online on the ETS website and you're like, oh, in my city, I have the test date directly in October. Right? It can happen. Sometimes that's happening quite frequently nowadays. So then this is a good option to consider. Obviously, there are a few points that you must take into account. So let me tell you all of that. So first, obviously, this is a safe and convenient option for students who are not able to take the test due to public health concerns, due to any other reasons, whatever it is. Right? This test is exactly the same TOEFL IBT test, right? And it is offered everywhere, wherever the TOEFL IBT is available. So basically it means if you're living in India, in any of the cities or towns in India, you can take the special home edition, not a problem, right? So it's the same test, identical in content, format, and on-screen experience. Nothing changes. All the 4 modules that we've just discussed, it's the same test, which is just delivered at your own laptop rather than a test center's computer, right? So this is taken on your own computer, obviously at home, and you will be monitored by a human proctor online through ProctorU. ProctorU is just an interface through which you connect with an invigilator. Basically, he's just an invigilator, he or she, and they'll just keep watching you throughout your 3 hours of testing time, right? They'll just watch, and if they find that, oh, you're doing something suspicious, they might report it to the ETS, and so your entire test may get cancelled. But they're also your point of support. If something happens and there is any problem in the interface or the software lags, or if there is a network issue or things like that, they're also the people who can help you. So it works both ways, for you and also for them, for ETS, that is, right? This is available more often as well, right? It is available up to 4 days a week and just 24 hours a day as well, right? So you can have appointments as early as 24 hours after you register. So if I am registering right now, right, it's about 9 a.m. today, I might actually be able to find a test for me tomorrow at the same time, tomorrow in the morning, same time. So that is also possible. So it's more available in terms of the test slots are concerned. It is just that the ProctorU interface should be available as well. If it is available, the test is already there, right? Now, a few things that you must consider. Yes, it's all fine. It's convenient. You can take it from the home, and you don't then have to travel, don't have to worry much about it. You're very well versed with your own laptops or computers. So that's all fine. Obviously, you cannot take it on a mobile phone. You cannot take it on a tablet, right? You have to take it on a laptop or a computer. Second thing, the security of this test is paramount. So when the proctor connects online with you, you have to make sure that the proctor is able to see your entire room, not just your background or backdrop, but the entire room. So you'll have to lift your laptop and give the proctor a 360 view of your room, even the ceiling and the flooring, everything. The proctor needs to see everything, because you're not allowed to keep anything with you. Yeah. Another thing is that you're not allowed to use headphones in this test. If you go to the test center, you get an individual headphone with a microphone built in, so the speaking and the listening tests go smoothly. Here, you're not allowed to do so, because those headphones can actually be attached to some other device, and you can easily then use some means which are not going to be accepted on the TOEFL. So therefore, they have banned this. So you will have to use the inbuilt microphone from your laptop, or you can use a USB microphone attached to a computer if you want to. So that's another challenge that some students face. The third thing is that the environment needs to be very quiet, right? If there are any disturbances, your test may just get cancelled altogether. So you have to ensure that the environment is quiet. Yeah. You also have to ensure that suddenly, your alarms are not ringing, or, your phone suddenly doesn't start vibrating somewhere. So you can keep your phone at a hand's distance. That's fine. Because if there is any issue in your network, you can switch to your hotspot. That is something that they allow, right? But again, you need to show your proctor in that 360 test that, okay, this is my phone, I've kept it at about an arm's length, so just in case of any emergencies I would be using it. This is something that you have to do, right? Another thing is, whatever you're wearing, obviously it needs to be comfortable, but you need to wear a bit of a semi-formal attire here, because they take your picture at the beginning of the test, and this photo of yours is shared with all the universities along with your score, right? One very important thing, especially for women, is that your ears need to be visible throughout the test, right? So you might have to tie your hair accordingly, because again, these days, you get pods, you can usually insert them in your ears and you're done. So they want to make sure that your ears are visible throughout and you're not using any hearing aid for that matter, right? The most important thing, the biggest thing here to consider is that for note taking, when you go to the test center, you get a rough sheet and a pencil, right? So you take all your notes for the listening, for the speaking and the writing tests. You take all your notes on that sheet of paper. And once your test is done, you basically just like crumble that paper and throw it in the bin in front of the invigilator. Now, if you're taking the test at home, they wouldn't allow you to do that. They can't allow you to write anything on a test paper, because if you write it on a paper, it's quite easy that you might leak the material outside. So they have banned this, not banned note taking, but note taking on a pen or paper, right? So then you have to purchase an erasable marker, right? And you can use, you get that plastic protector, sheet protector, right? So you can insert a white blank A4 size page inside the protector and you can take notes on the protector, and then you can wipe it in front of the proctor at the end of your test. Second method is that you can get a whiteboard, a small whiteboard, and then you can use a marker and take some notes there. And again, at the end of your test, you erase all your notes and show the marker, the whiteboard to the proctor from front and back and say that, okay, this is it, it's all gone. I don't have anything with me. That again becomes a bit of a challenge, because then it's just a very small whiteboard, the one that you get, and it's not very convenient, because sometimes those lectures especially can be very lengthy, and to take all the notes on that small piece of whiteboard can become a real challenge, right? But then, like I said, there are pros, there are cons, so you need to consider both the sides and then decide whether you really want to go for the special home edition, or if you just would like to prefer going to the center-based TOEFL. I, for one, would recommend you to go for the center-based TOEFL, because even better if it's a Prometric center. So Prometric centers are owned by ETS. If any issue happens anywhere during your test, it is their responsibility, not yours. You take the special home edition, your network's suddenly not working properly, you are the only one who's responsible for it, right? So there are these aspects to consider as well. Yeah, right. Now, another very important thing is that the TOEFL IBT now has a paper edition as well. And this is not available everywhere as of now. They're going to have more tests in around December in India, right? So it's going to be the same 4 skills TOEFL test. It is just delivered on a paper, right? It's coming soon. Basically, those of you who have a couple of months in your hands, you might want to consider this as an option as well. So you take the 3 sections on paper, right? And then this is obviously at the test center. You can't take it at home. You have to go to the test center and you solve it on a paper. And then you can take speaking on a computer at your home, right? Just the speaking test on a computer at your home. It is the same test. It is just that the reading, listening and writing you need to solve on a piece of paper, right? So this is still going to be accepted by the same number of institutions as the TOEFL IBT, because it's the same test. It is just delivered on a paper, right? So this is good because you can conveniently schedule your speaking test on demand whenever you want. you will be able to book your speaking slot. You just need about 17 minutes for that, maybe 20-25 minutes with your equipment check and everything, and then you're done, right? So whenever you have around 30 minutes free time, you can book for that session and you're done, right? This paper-based test also includes a 10-minute break after the listening section, right? So reading and listening, then there is a break, and after that you get to the writing test. Speaking is something you do from your home, right? And they'll also give you an improved registration experience. You'll get to know more about this as we approach December, right? I think they'll make an announcement maybe next month, a more detailed announcement of this, where they'll tell you how they're going to conduct it and how often you'll be able to appear for the TOEFL paper edition. Will it take longer for the results to be calculated? I think it will, right? And all of those details are not yet in public domain, but I'm hoping that this month or next month mostly they'll make that announcement as well. So this is something which is coming up. And like I said, those of you who have time on your hands, you can think of this. If you feel that I'm more comfortable in a pen and paper setting, definitely a good option for you. If you feel like, no, I think I can manage all of the note taking and computer delivered experience and all of that, it's fine. You can go to the actual IBT, go to a test center and take it from there, not a problem. Yeah. So there's one more very important aspect of the TOEFL, and that is the My Best Scores feature, right? So TOEFL now allows you to report the best sectional and the best total scores to the universities, right? These scores must be from all the attempts within a 2-year period, because the validity of the score is just 2 years. So if you've taken 4 tests in a 2-year period, what they'll do is they'll look at all the 4 scores. Whichever is the best in listening, they'll give you that. Whichever is best in reading, they'll give you that. Whichever is best in writing, and whichever best is speaking. And then the total of all the best scores becomes your best total. That is a My Best score, which is great. Now, I'll show you an example here, right? So there are 2 tests that this particular student has taken. Yeah. So the first test he took was on 10th of April, 2021. The second test that he took was the 1st of May. So this is a scorecard from the 1st of May. He got 28 for reading, 29 listening, 28 speaking, 30 writing. Very good score. So his total is 115. Now, because he had also taken another test last month, that is 10th of April, right? You get the My Best score, which is a combination of the 2. So in the reading on 10th of April, he had 30. So they'll consider the best from that test, which was 30. Listening, they're taking from the 1st May test, 29. Maybe in the 10th of April, he got 28, 27, whatever it was. Speaking, again, they're taking from the previous attempt, 10th of April, which was 30. Here it was 28, you can see, right? And writing, again, they're taking from the current test, 30. And so the total also gets a boost of 119. It's 4 points, higher than the 1st of May score. Yeah. So a lot of universities are okay if you submit the My Best scores, but then a lot of universities want you to submit only your current test scores. This depends a lot on individual universities and the courses that you're opting for. So before you plan for another attempt of TOEFL, just make sure that you have a word with your US counselors about this, because they will be the best people to guide you and tell you whether the university that you're targeting accepts the My Best Scores feature or no, right? I have seen that a lot of universities have started accepting the My Best Scores feature, but then there are a few who still just want your recent score and not the My Best score. Yeah. And usually, obviously, you should be able to get a very good score in the first attempt itself. It's not a very difficult test to score in. But then sometimes due to very high score requirements, students appear for the test again, right? Another thing which I would like all of you to confirm with your counselors, US counselors, is if there is any minimum requirement section wise, right? A lot of universities are like, okay, we want a total of 100 and we are okay. We're fine. So you get whatever in listening, reading, writing, speaking, doesn't matter. Your total needs to be 100 and that's it. But then there are some universities who are like, okay, we need a total of 100 minimum and we need a minimum of 25 in writing. Maybe because your course at that university requires you to submit a lot of written work. So they want a minimum of 25 in writing and a total of 100. So then you have to make sure that you meet both those criteria. Yeah. So just get in touch with your US counselors and understand all of this beforehand, before you start preparing for the TOEFL. So you'll have those targets in your mind that, okay, I must do this good and I must meet this particular requirement. Yeah. And then you can also think of the My Best course if you need another attempt in that scenario. Right. So I hope this is clear for everyone. The My Best course feature. Hopefully, yes. Yeah, great, wonderful, right? So let's then get to this last section of today's class, how we are going to help you with these classes, right? So these are obviously going to be online classes. We are going to have 12 targeted sessions of 1.5 hours each, right? And in these 12 sessions, like I said, it's a targeted structure. We are going to cover all the 4 skills with a number of different practice tests. We're going to focus on the Barron's TOEFL preparation material, which is also one of the best TOEFL preparation material out there, right? So I'm not going to talk much about me, but yes, I am certified by the ETS to teach the TOEFL. So I would be handling this batch for all of you. You'll be learning with me all the 4 modules. We will be providing you with up-to-date material along with the tried, tested, and proven strategies. We've got a range of high scoring candidates who've done very well under TOEFL, and we keep on updating our tips and strategies and the material as well based on the feedback that we receive from all of our students. So that is something you're going to definitely benefit from as well, right? You will get, like I said, a number of different practice tests through this class structure, and you'll also have one scored mock test at the end, right? So make sure that you take this test about 5 days before your actual exam. So if there are any corrections that you want to make to your approach or any focus that is required in specific areas, you'll have enough time to reflect on that and correct those things as well. Yeah. And obviously we have a partnership with the ETS. So if you want maybe some help in your test booking or account creation or that discount as well, we are able to offer you that $10 discount because of this. So there are those benefits that we get as a partner of the ETS, which from time to time we pass on to our students, right? So that is how we're going to go through this. We're going to execute this. One more important thing is that today was just the demo class of this batch, right? So in terms of your regular classes, we are planning to start them from Monday, right? So regular classes will begin from Monday, that is the 5th of September. And the timings are going to be the same. That's going to be 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Yeah. So it's going to be 12 days. So 5th, that is Monday, that's going to be the first teaching class. And then there would be 12 classes. The classes will be conducted from Monday to Saturday. It's only the 2nd and 4th Saturdays that we will not have our classes because those are my days off, right? So no class on 2nd or 4th Saturday. I think we'll have only one 2nd Saturday that will fall under this particular batch. So on that particular Saturday, you'll not have your class. Otherwise, we'll have classes from Monday to Saturday, right? So that is what I wanted to share from my end, right? Thank you for being a wonderful audience and letting me complete the planned session as it was planned rather. Now is the time for all of you to open up and ask me any questions that you might have related to this test or the class structure or anything else. Anyone? Any questions that you've pending? Sure, Divyanshu, it was a pleasure. Any doubts, any questions about the test, about the special home edition, about the paper edition, about anything else at all? So have I covered it so well that there are no doubts at all? I hope not. I hope there are a couple of questions. Nothing? Aditi? just the listening, Aditi. Yes. Oh, let me just allow you to unmute as well now. Now that the content's done, we can do that. Not a problem. Yeah, Aditi, so you can unmute and ask that question. Not a problem.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
I have a doubt in listening section. Listening, like how is that? And actually, I wasn't like a bit. I was zoned out while you're talking about
Okay.
listening session. Yeah.
Fine, no problem. So in the listening section, Aditi, there are two types of audios that you get. One is a lecture where the professor will describe a very specific academic concept in a detailed manner, right? So it's about 6 to 7 minutes in length, and you must take down very detailed notes on that. And at the end of the lecture, you have to answer 6 questions based on it, right? That's the first kind of audio. So there are two types of lectures. One is just a lecture where the professor is talking throughout. The other is a classroom discussion where the professor talks and then the students also add something to it, and then again the professor continues. So those are the two types, right? The second type of audio is a conversation where you have different situations. It could be two students who are discussing a research paper they're writing together. It could be one student and one professor where the student has a few doubts and he approaches the professor for those doubts. It could be a student and a librarian, and they're discussing things which are maybe concerned about the policies of, you know, book return or issuing of the books or things like that. So these are usually shorter audios. They're about 3 to 4 minutes usually. And then again, you must take good notes while you're listening to them. And at the end of the conversation, you get 5 questions on them. So 6 questions on every lecture, 5 questions on every conversation. There are 3 lectures and 2 conversations for the shorter listening test. That's 5 audios, or 4 lectures and 3 conversations. That's 7 audios for the longer listening test. I hope that's clear, Aditi.
Yeah. Yeah. So cleared.
No
And
problem.
also, I wanted to ask, like, is the TOEFL exam? Does it get affected based on the center which we take?
Oh, that's a good question. So it doesn't get affected with the center that you choose. See, this is a global test, right? And the ETS ensures that on a specific test day in a specific hemisphere, the same test is administered, right?
Okay.
So yeah, if my test was say on the 9th of September, if I
Okay.
take it here in India, it would be the same test. If I take it in any of the other Southeast Asian countries, it would be the same test on the same slot.
Okay, means if I take it in any state, like not in Maharashtra, out of
Yeah.
Maharashtra state, does it get affected if it's not a prometric center also?
Yes, I mean, it won't really get affected. If it is not a prometric center, there's only that one risk which you'll have. It's in terms of their overall facilities that they provide. Like it's more secure to
Yeah,
take a test in a prometric center. You know, with GRE how it is. It's the
yeah,
same
yeah.
thing with the TOEFL. It's more secure if you take it in a prometric center. If not, it's not a prometric center. Well, you might you might face a few issues here. That's just a possibility.
Yeah. If the issue
Yeah.
comes, it will get affected or not. That based on the
Yeah, I mean, see, because it's the non-prometric center, they won't be able to guarantee everything works smoothly. So there
okay,
would be a problem then. I would always recommend if you can find a prometric center, it would be better to go for.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, sir.
fine.
Got
But
it.
the test is going to be the same. It's just the execution that might differ.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, got
fine.
it.
Anything
Yes, sir.
else, sure, Aditi? No problem. Any other questions, Husna or Divyanshu? All right, fine. So I was actually hoping for some more students also to join this. So we'll get in touch with them. We'll see if all of them are also there. Then from Monday onwards, obviously, we'll have our regular classes. And, you know, if all of them are going to join us, ID for GRE and TOEFL. Oh, okay. I think it's going to be a bit of a problem. Divyanshu, are you in touch with Humaira, ma'am? Because they're yes. Oh, okay, fine. So please do get in touch with Humaira ma'am for this, both of you, Aditi and Divyanshu. She will be able to help you because ideally you should have the same ID for both the tests, you know. So just get in touch, she'll be able to help you, I'm sure. Yeah, fine. Right. So hopefully then we'll have a bit of a better number for Monday, and then on Monday we'll be starting with the reading section of the TOEFL. I'll start with the basics. We'll look at a few tips and strategies, and then we'll move on to the actual, testing material. Yeah. So thank you again then for being a lovely audience, and I hope you got a little out of this class. A few things maybe that you were not aware of. I hope I was able to share some knowledge about the TOEFL test with all of you. Right. So have a wonderful weekend ahead, and hopefully I'll see you all again on Monday. Yeah. Thank you then. Bye. Take care.